Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet SkyFF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name's Such.
And my name is James.
Do you want to start?
With?
Well, your team.
I haven't even logged in yet, can you?
Ah, dear. So I made some transfers this weekend. Which is
Celebrate good times, come on.
I made 2, so I'm down to 44 only. I started the game week around about 3,700. I finished the game week around 3,700, which is steady as you go. Reasonable game week. I'm on 75 points for the game week, and I captained Haaland on Saturday.
Standard.
We all did, but I also had Rodri and Cancelo. Rodri didn't do anything. Unsurprising with Brighton having so much possession in the second half. It wasn't massively more, but it was more. I captained Jesus on Sunday.
You look very displeased about this.
Well, I'm disappointed by it. And I captained Scamacca over Bowen. Not that would have made a difference on Monday. But yeah, overall, it was okay. I got 5 of Van Dijk, 5 of Cancelo, 5 of Paulinho, and then mainly it was all Haaland's points. Trippier, I got 4 points for, and that could easily have been 6 or 7 because he wasn't too far off the passing tier. The transfers I made, I sold Mo Salah for Kieran Trippier.
Was that I've had enough of him?
No, I had no money. So I was restricted, I could only move sideways in any transfers that I wanted to make. I had literally 0.0 in the bank. So if I wanted to make any moves and power up, let's say a Paulinho to more City, which is what I want to do in the last couple of weeks, I had to make a sacrifice somewhere, and Salah was the one. He'd done all right for me. I'd got the goal off him for the City game. I'd had the shot tier off him against West Ham as captain. Nothing on Saturday, but that's fine for moving off Kane. Kane in that week had scored 1 goal, I think, right? Which was literally the goal against Newcastle. He didn't get anything against United.
No.
And he didn't get anything the weekend before Everton. No, I had him for Everton.
Yes, he scored against Everton.
I had him for Everton and I sold him on Sunday, so that was fine. So literally I just missed Kane, United and Newcastle. And I had Salah captain and the goal against City and a shot tier. Probably not much difference.
How much money you got in the bank now?
Now I've got 2.9. So Salah went to Trippier, and that gave me the opportunity to sell Nico Williams and get Scamacca, which I did on Monday.
Nico Williams. I see you kept him for Liverpool.
Who, Nico Williams?
So you've had the clean sheets at Brighton and Liverpool.
Yeah. I had those points, mate.
Well done.
I didn't captain him in any of those situations.
Why would you?
Trying to squeeze it out. So I moved to Scamacca, which is fine. I think now, between now and the end of the season, I'm hoping Scamacca outscores Nico Williams. And I've got enough money to turn Paulinho into Phil Foden, should I choose at any point. But Paulinho just keeps ticking along really well.
Well, I was going to say, have you got any Brighton players?
Caicedo.
You've got Caicedo. Got any Villa?
No.
Got any Manchester United?
No.
So who you captain on the last day, Sunday the 13th, Fulham against United, Brighton against Villa?
Caicedo is my plan.
That's your plan at the moment. Do you want to leave yourself with just one player there?
Yeah, well, just deal with it when I get there. It's I haven't got an issue with transfers. So my original plan was like Paulinho to Foden. Then I'll have 4 City players in the running, I'd hoped that.
So how many City have you got? You've got Cancelo,
3.
Haaland,
Rodri,
and you've got Rodri. Okay, yeah.
And I want to add Foden.
Yeah, I just wondered, Suj, obviously Fulham play Saturday, Everton at home. If you want to move out Paulinho, I just wonder if you're better off going to like a Rashford on Sunday. Give you better captaincy for the last day.
I'm not wed to getting Foden or moving Paulinho on. I mean, the reason I think I've done consistently well this season.
You get up to Bruno, I take it you can't.
No, having only used 5 transfers is because the enablers have done okay. Caicedo has chipped in every now and then and done okay. Paulinho's done okay. Nico Williams from time to time has done okay. David Raya is a fairly cheap goalkeeper. He's also done okay. So yeah, I think that's been the key to it more than anything else.
Okay. I think you should just consider that for Sunday. We've spoken about this coming Sunday a few times about probably being kind of last point for transfers prior to the overhaul. And I think there will be interest in going back into Arsenal and back into United. The plan for myself at the moment is probably I'm done, bar injuries. But if I did, there's every case I'd go for like a Rashford rather than another Arsenal. I think I've got Martinelli and Saliba. I'm not sure I want to add to that. Wasn't a great week for myself. I actually captained Saliba on Sunday. Part of that was based on seeing the Southampton team and thinking there would be passing tiers in there. It was looking good for a 9-10 pointer at one point. I can't say I was disappointed when Southampton equalised. Haaland's captaincy, goal for Mitrovic on Sunday, Salah shots here, Cancelo tackles, Nick Pope saved here, Adam Webster 2 points. But with a passing tier, Suj, nice. Can you believe it? The only two players to hit passing tiers in a Man City game weren't Man City players. Lewis Dunk overnight on Saturday night. And this seems to be an ongoing trend, actually, where points and passes and tackles seem to be changing. I remember I was sure you said to me, Pauline, you got 6 tackles. It was only 5.
Was it?
So I think some of the scores do look like they're getting adjusted overnight, so it's worth going back and double-checking on these things.
Yeah, I looked at SofaScore, and he definitely had 6 at the end of the game, but maybe it got adjusted, I'm not sure.
So, yeah, not great for me. 65, sitting at 1,656 currently. Suj, I know you're going to ask me, so I'll tell you.
You're sitting at what?
1,656th. I have 1,015 points, because I know that's probably your next question.
So you're 33 points ahead of me.
And about how many transfers worse off? I'm down to 31, by the way.
44 I have. 12 transfers, 33 points. Can't be able to do that just on appearance points alone and a couple of tiers. But, yeah. So I'm 3,800. So 33 points is separating 2,000 places, 2,200 places. So I really fluctuated. You know, I was high like in any given week. I've been as high as like 2,200 and then dropped to like 4,300 and then stabilised. So
yeah, after
the swings of like 1,000 places are fairly commonplace.
I was up to, I think after Mitrovic's goal against Villa, I was just outside the top 1,000 actually. So it was a pretty shit weekend for me. It happens. I'm relatively happy with what I've got for the run-in now. And as said, I think unless there's injuries and clear pathways, then that's me done. I mean, I'll give an example. Let's say Saliba picks up this 5th yellow on Sunday against Nottingham Forest. I mean, my expectations away to Chelsea the following week wouldn't have been huge anyway. I'm making the transfer for a one-game gain next weekend. I'll probably just leave it, mate, to be totally honest.
A few people will log into the app and see a little orange eye next to Erling Haaland, injured with a foot injury, came off in the Dortmund game. Now we don't know enough information, so let's not overly worry about it, but we will see the team. And if we see the team and Erling Haaland's not in it on Saturday, do you think it's worth the move to Salah if people don't have... or even Harry Kane, if that's your flavour?
Yeah, I think for me, should he not be in the team, I'm leaving it. I mean, the only way I'm moving that is if it's confirmed he's out for, say, the Fulham game the following week as well. If Pep was to come out on Friday and say, look, he's not going to play tomorrow, he's going to be very doubtful for Fulham, then arguably, yes, I'd make the move. You've got the advantage with him, of course, that if you feel desperate to go back, we've spoken about this, all 3 of Man City's games, you'll see the lineup. So, I mean, it's not as big a problem for Sky as it might be in other formats. My take at the moment would be, if he's not in the team at Leicester, I'm just going to captain someone else. For me, that's probably Mo Salah. So, in my case, if I was to go Kane, and that's where I'd go, I think, do I captain Harry over Salah? Probably not at the moment, to be totally honest, despite... I know people are very frustrated with Mo at the moment, but I think Mo at home to Leeds, rather than Tottenham are not firing at the moment. Obviously, Liverpool aren't either, but away game at Bournemouth, I imagine will be quite low scoring, actually. So I'd be bringing him in, not captaining him. If Haaland's back the following week, I'm sick with that. So it's a non-move for me.
Cool. I may still do it, but then I've got flush with transfers, so,
To be honest, in your case, there's every case to say, yeah, do it.
And I don't have Salah or Kane.
Well, in your case, then it's, yeah, do it. It's do it. Get whichever one in is your preference. Captain them. And then, to be honest, with Tottenham and Liverpool playing each other the following week, if Haaland's then back in the team against City, against Fulham, yeah,
I'll just move back.
In your case, Haaland's such a unique case that you know that if you're without and he goes off, you'll burn. I mean, to put it this way to you, how many goals do you think he gets in these 3 games if he starts them all? Leicester away, Fulham at home, Brentford at home.
5.
It's probably on par, isn't it?
Minimum.
Ridiculous, isn't it? So, do you really want to sell that for one game if there's a doubt on him? It's not like he's... If it was afterwards, he had, Liverpool away and Arsenal at home or something like that, okay, yeah, I want to back against him. I don't think you're going to want them Fulham or Brentford home games without him.
Nah.
Both those... I mean, Brentford have conceded 9 in their last 2 away games. Fulham have kept 1 clean sheet all season. That was game week 2 at Wolves. So I don't think you'd want to be without. So for me, there would be 0 consideration to sell him unless there's something that becomes very clear and obvious with his fitness. And yeah, I'd captain him as long as he's in the team.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
That would be my take for the weekend. Do you want me to go through some of the
takeaways from
there's
weekend.
More games to go through here, so we'll go through this quite quickly because obviously last recording was last Wednesday. Bournemouth Southampton, nothing overly to write home about. Tackle tier for Salisu. It was a passing tier for Adam Smith. Sensei was just off 58 passes. Brentford Chelsea, there was passing tier 2, big number for Azpilicueta 87, Jorginho 80. But interestingly, Koulibaly and Chalobah, who played centre back, were under tier 1. There were shot tiers for Tony and Mbumo. Those who had Kepa and Rare will be delighted with save tier 2 from that fixture last midweek. Van Dijk hit tier 2 passing against West Ham, which we shouldn't be overly surprised about, but it's Joe Gomez only 41. We spoke on one of the pods we did late last week, I think last Friday, Suj, about being surprised at the amount of possession West Ham had in the second half. So yes, they're chasing the game, but you still expect Liverpool to have the majority of the ball, which didn't happen. And it's why Kera hit passing tier. And obviously Declan Rice did as well. Worth noting, 3 of the front 4 in that fixture, Salah, Núñez and Firmino all hit shots here. It was passing tier for Thiago and Henderson as well. We maybe, and I don't think this is a problem for the upcoming fixtures for Liverpool, Leeds, Tottenham, Southampton. If you've got Van Dijk, I think, yeah, you probably are hitting the passing tier in all of them. But it might be something to be more conscious of after the World Cup.
I think you mentioned
that they are slowly adapting here, Liverpool.
3 weeks ago, you said, look, we're going to blink and Van Dijk's going to score like 50, 60 points in 5 or 6 weeks.
I was literally thinking that 2 minutes before Nottingham Forest scored on Saturday.
7, 10, 5. So, I mean, it's still 22 points in 3 weeks is not to be sniffed at, and they're capable of more as well. It's nice to have him back as a little reliable Sky asset.
He's a Liverpool defensive player, reliable at the moment.
For past tier.
For past tier, yeah.
The clean sheets are icing on the cake now. It's not the other way around anymore.
I don't know. It's a lot of money for 5s.
Yeah.
You want a 1 in 2 kind of clean sheet ratio. And I do think, as I said, I don't think it's beyond reason that Liverpool will get minimum 2 clean sheets in the next 3. And yeah, you could be looking at 25 points or so for Van Dijk over this period. Would you consider him rather than, if Haaland was ruled out, would you consider him rather than Salah or Kane?
If I didn't want to use a transfer, that would be my next.
I think there'd be a case to pick him over Salah. Not Harry, I don't think. Newcastle Everton, no passing tiers for Newcastle. I noticed Idrissa Gueye was just short for Everton. They, I think, are still without any player hitting a passing tier this season, but it's certainly improving. Gueye also hit tackle tier. You mentioned him a couple of weeks ago. That actually was extremely good for Sky managers when he was back at his peak with Everton. The anomaly of statistics against Tottenham continued at Manchester United last week, with the likes of Fred hitting shots here. Luke Shaw being way out in front, 77 passes completed in the game. Yet Lisandro Martinez and Rafael Varane were only 44 and 43 respectively. 8 saves from Hugo Lloris. Manchester United well beat us. There was a passing tier for Christian Romero. Just briefly, a note on him. Didn't train for Tottenham yesterday, but we do think he has a chance of playing tonight. So there's every chance he could return, obviously, if he's in your team for Bournemouth on Saturday. If he's not, and it's Liverpool afterwards, I'd consider potentially moving that on if you think you can get a good gain. It might, he's at similar... Romero to say Rashford, 0.3 difference. I'd arguably look at that maybe for Sunday, if that helps your Sunday the 13th issue, possibly with captaincy as well. Tim Ream hit passing tier for Fulham against Aston Villa, who were toilet, but there's no point talking about Villa because they're about to change manager under Unai Emery, who takes over not this weekend, but next weekend. Diego Llorente of Leeds hit passing tier at Leicester last Thursday. Wout Faes was one pass off and hit 7 tackles. Anybody who gambled on him, going back to that night James Maddison went off against Nottingham Forest, and we spoke about Johnny Evans a little bit, anybody who went Wout Faes will be absolutely delighted. Can you just pull up his returns since that Forest game, Suj?
Certainly can. So Forest was 7, Bournemouth 7, Palace 10, Leeds 10, Wolves 6.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
It's more than good. It's like 20...
7.4.
40 points in 5 weeks, mate. 7.6 he is.
7.6. And obviously anybody who's been sitting with Danny Ward in the team, I don't suppose that'll be many of you, will be delighted as well. Just obviously, look, it's Man City this week. It could be a minus, right?
So he played against... Wout played against you. I don't think he played against Brighton.
His first start was against us, the 6-2.
Yeah. And he got a 0. And then from then he's got 40 points.
In what, 5?
5.
It's 8 a game, isn't it? Very good. Now, it should be said that Leicester's 5 fixtures have been very favourable. And it's part way I spoke about Johnny Evans quite a lot leading up to that game, that I did think, yeah, there could be something here, actually. Tyler Adams got tackles in that game. Rasmus Christensen also did. Neither played against Fulham on the Sunday. I'm not aware of Tyler Adams' injury status at the moment. Obviously, keep an eye on that potential news. Moving on to the weekend games, 7 saves for Henderson, 6 for Alisson in that Saturday lunchtime game. It did not feel like that. Van Dijk and Gomez both over 100 passes, or correction, Gomez 100 passes. I'm not convinced Joe Gomez will stay in the team. He probably will against Leeds this weekend, but I think if Konate's back for Tottenham, Konate will play against Tottenham, would be my take for those who have either gambled or thinking of gambling. I certainly wouldn't go on now. If you've gone on, I think you should be conscious of the situation. And if, say, Konate was back for Leeds and came straight back in the team, I think that's a sell for something on Sunday, even if it's a sideways to sort of a Gabriel or something like that. Even Martinez possibly at Manchester United. For Everton, again, no passing tiers against Crystal Palace. Gay was 37 and 2 respectively. James Tarkowski the most with passes with 50. And the repetitive Mark Gay, Joachim Anderson theme continues. 75 passes for Gay, 59 for Anderson. So that's still continuing in that weird quirk between them where the passes are generally coming down the left-hand side. As we mentioned earlier, no passing tiers for Manchester City players against Brighton. Indeed, the only tiers hit were Haaland's 2 goals for shots, tier 1, and Cancelo had 5 tackles for tier 2. Webster and Dunk both hit passing tier, and I imagine they probably will in the remaining games as well. That even includes Saturday's fixture against Chelsea. Talking of Chelsea, another save tier for Kepa against Manchester United. It would have been 6 saves if Casemiro's effort at the end of the game hadn't gone in. There were no passing tiers in the game. Casemiro got 5 tackles. He's interesting, Casemiro, but I don't think he's interesting now. I think he might be interesting on the other side. And I think he's the sort of one, if something happens on Saturday where there's an injury issue or something, I think people will be tempted to look at him. I would put his points expectation on the 3 games left for United at around about 12 points. So where would you see that as? Is that worth a transfer? Now, if you throw in its possible captaincy against Fulham, let's say if that's maybe a 5 points, then suddenly you're taking that number up towards 17. Maybe it does become worth it.
Yeah. So you're basically saying 4 points a game, which is 2 appearance points and 1 tier.
He hasn't hit passing tier yet. Now, admittedly, United's fixtures have been tougher, but I would have expected him
Just
to
looking at
I would have
West
expected
Ham's
him
going to be a tough
hit it
game.
against us.
We like we like to turn up at Old Trafford and at least push a shift in if we're not going to get points. I think Old Trafford is. It doesn't mean we always win, but it's a game that we get up for. Is
When's the last time you won now?
I have no idea, but it's definitely a game that you look at Old Trafford and you think that's a big game that you want to get up for.
I've got a Jermaine Defoe goal in my memory. I'm trying to think of something since.
I have no desire to start trawling through your brain of goals and football. I feel like we've opened up a black box and you're like, what shall I pull out? A Jermaine Defoe goal at Old Trafford. And then in amongst that, it's like a man looking in his toolbox or tool bag. It's like every tool.
That is my toolbox, the football memory.
I don't know. I just think, two appearance points and 1 tier per game, 4 points per game is fair. As an expectation.
Is it worth a transfer at this stage?
I wouldn't do it. I'd only do it if it was solving me a problem with an injury, for example. Paulinho's out, I can go to Casemiro. If I didn't want to spend all the money or go up.
I'd rather go to Rashford because it's a short period as well. I think the ceiling's higher. He did hit shot to himself at Chelsea. I think I'd rather go there and punt it that there could be a haul there. It might be something against Fulham on the break in that final game, for example. Ollie Watkins, 5 shots on target against Brentford, which did follow shot tier 1 at Fulham as well. Now, interestingly, in those last couple of games, Watkins has moved into a wide position. And I'm pretty sure he hit shot tier against Chelsea the week before, I want to say, as well. So one possibly to keep an eye on, but we obviously don't know at this stage what Unai Emery will do stylistically once he comes into the team. Bad day for Brentford. 4 goals conceded, still 7 saves for Raya.
Yeah, 2 points considering that. Like, if you just said to me Brighton and Chelsea, he's going to be worth like 36 points, but only 2 afterwards. I'd still taken it.
Leeds certainly missed, I think, Tyler Adams at the weekend, as already mentioned. As you said, Serge, there were tackles for Paulinho. Cooper and Koch weren't far off of passing tier in that defeat to Fulham. There was 70 passes for Gabriel, 65 for Saliba in that Southampton-Arsenal draw at the weekend. Shot tier for Granit Xhaka. What price is Xhaka, Serge? Make me laugh.
I'm gonna have a quick look for you.
Saints are not worth consideration at the moment. The only tier in that match was for Diallo, got 5 tackles. Price on Xhaka, Serge?
Is 7.3.
Yeah, it's a no for Sky, I think. It's a reasonable price and nothing wrong with it, but Saliba's 0.1 more, I think, with more consistency and more avenues with the passing tackle.
There's no tiers for Xhaka. As much as you might think tackle tier.
No, there won't be now the way he's playing.
There's no tiers. It's goals or assists and that's it. That's all you're getting.
He's more likely now to hit shot tier than pass or tackle tier. That's remarkable, don't get me wrong, but I think that's where it's at. There were a few hit passing tier 2 for Wolves in the heavy defeat to Leicester. Kilman, Collins, the 2 centre-backs, and Ruben Neves. We shouldn't be that surprised about that, considering Leicester were obviously leading throughout that game. 3 shots on target for Diego Costa, if that takes your fancy. I'm sure it doesn't. 5 saves for Ward. There was a tackle tier for James Maddison on his return, and obviously a goal. Wout Faes number well down on passing, 35. Interestingly, that was nearly double of Daniel Marty, who partnered him at centre-back. Marty only with 18. No Newcastle player hit passing tier against Tottenham. As you said, Kieran Trippier was closest with 55. And Dan Burn was 40, was more than the 2 centre-backs. They were going wide a lot and trying diagonals in behind. Trippier was particularly looking for Joel Linton in behind Emerson Royal. Trips did pick up a tackle tier. It was a shot tier for Callum Wilson, who I think if suddenly you've walked into a real problem, I don't know, let's just say hypothetically Tony was ruled out before the weekend as an example. If you had the money, I don't think you'd be the worst sort of 3-game punt. But again, I think you'd be more liable to sort of wait for United or Arsenal on Sunday. And I think possibly particularly United if it helps you with a captaincy problem for the final day, Sunday the 13th.
Callum Wilson, yesterday. I was listening to the Footballers Football podcast. He was telling a story, which most listeners won't listen to, so I'll tell you.
How do you know that?
I don't know. I don't think most listeners listen to his pod with Antonio and the other geezer, Ricky or whatever. And he was talking about Antonio asking a question. He goes, "I heard that you poured away a goalkeeper's water bottle when they were playing on the pitch." And they just started laughing. He goes, "Look, okay." He goes, "There's a pause." And he goes, "It's true." So what happened was he went to Brighton. They played Brighton, and do you remember when it was like 35 degrees or whatever?
Game week 2 they went there. Yeah, it was hot.
He goes, "It was proper hot." He goes, "I was so thirsty, and there was a corner being taken." He goes, "I saw the goalkeeper's Lucozade." So I thought, "Fuck it, I'll go over and have a drink." Right? He starts helping himself to Sanchez's Lucozade, and then he goes, and then the crowd is laughing, right? So then Sanchez turned around and was looking at him like, "What are you doing? You're just taking my drink." So then Callum Wilson, just to take the piss, just actually then started squaring the bottle out onto the grass and chucked, it must have been a plasma, and just chucked it into the crowd and just carried on. He was like, "Fuck it, it was hot, right? I want him to be dehydrated." I'm like he can't go and get another water bottle from
Yeah. Just literally wave at the dugout. "Can you get me another one?"
I wouldn't even catch that, but the dumb stuff that people do, right? Can you imagine just going up to the goalkeeper's water bottle in the corner and just emptying his water bottle just to be a little shit on the pitch?
It wouldn't even work in Sunday League. You literally just shout at sub, "Bring me another drink."
Man, you just get slapped. So funny. But yeah, he did do it. And fair play, he held his hands up and admitted that he poured away Robert Sanchez's water bottle. He gets a bit of credit for that, but I don't know if it makes him more of a Sky Fantasy asset.
Shots here for Harry Kane and Heung-min Son in that fixture. Just on Sonny, I'm not quite sure how it would work, but if you were in a position where you were blocked to go to Kane and wanted to go Son over Salah, I don't mind that. These do feel like they could be 3 good games for Sonny. And prior to, disappointed on Sunday, but actually in the last few games, particularly against Frankfurt in the Champions League, looked like he was getting a little bit back to his best, actually. But I don't think this system's suiting him. Tottenham need to go back to a front three. The winners of the Monday Night Football, really, were those who gambled on Lucas Fabianski or the cat kicker. We'll be talking far more about this handball incident on our Tottenham Patreon podcast today. There was another passing tier for Declan Rice, Suj. These are building up. They're becoming a little bit more consistent, these, actually. And again,
we're
Bournemouth numbers okay
Zuma.
at centre-backs.
I've noticed a lot of hate for Zuma, even you calling him the cat kicker.
He's a cat kicker. Am I lying?
It's true, but what I'm interested in, because there was I saw Plonker, I think, put a poll out. We can talk about it now. We can maybe talk about it in Tottenham on whether or not it's morally right to buy Zuma in fantasy games.
Yeah, I voted no.
But then, where do you draw the moral line?
I absolutely would buy him if he was the most clear and obvious best option.
It's like, where do you draw the line on crimes that footballers have committed to which get continually called by their criminal offence, let's say?
There are, oh God, I don't really want to go comparing incidents, but
would you call, you don't call Cristiano Ronaldo phone slapper, for example.
It's true. You
don't call Hugo Lloris drink driver.
There are other players in this league that I definitely would not buy, and Zuma's
understood,
not one of them.
But Zuma is continuously still vilified, and I think people don't vilify other people in the same way when they've committed worse offences.
It's easier to call someone a cat kicker than a rapist, isn't it?
Yeah, but drink driving. There's loads of players in the league that have been convicted for drink driving. Like, I had a cheeky look. Zuma got fined more for kicking a cat than I'm pretty sure Firmino got fined for drink driving.
I didn't even know Firmino got done for drink driving.
15-month ban and drink driving. He's not the only one.
Sell Firmino then, Sky managers.
Lloris. But it feels like those are more serious criminal offences, but no one keeps tarnishing them.
I don't know. There's some people will think that kicking a cat is worse.
And you mentioned, obviously, rapism.
Stop shaking your head and making this awkward for me.
No, but it's one of them things. I think Zuma is an easy scapegoat. That's all I'm saying. And people are still giving him grief for kicking a cat. Like, he's paid his fine and he's done his time. I get that. But kicking a cat won't kill a child on the street. Drink driving will. And so people should be vilified for all of those crimes as well. There's no morality police on footballers and their crimes, because if you open up the can of worms for the whole league, trust me, there's loads of other shit that people have done as well. No one calls Leo Messi a tax avoider, The guy didn't pay no tax for how long? And yet we moan about the rich all the time and the Tory party and all that kind of jazz. Anyway, that's my Zoom rant.
I just got one more thing to say.
Yeah.
He's a cat kicker.
He is. But then I would expect you to call a Loris drink driver.
Loris is a drink driver. There you go.
Just drink driver. That's his name now.
Okay, we're gonna have to bin the cat kicker, so just getting upset.
Yeah, I think it's not that I'm upset. Like, people can call people whatever they like, right? There's people that I don't like, I'll call them names or whatever. But it's just about consistency rather than hypocrisy.
I think it's because recency as well. Like, to be fair, using Loris as an example, I think like it's changed quite a bit since the incident with Loris. So I think if it happened now, it would be worse.
Yeah, but I think the
It's out of
Ronaldo
people's
one's
memory.
the one that pisses me off more than anything else.
And
You
unfortunately,
can't go up to a kid and slap him. Simple.
no, of course. Unfortunately, as well, you are right. A number of people have been done for drink driving. It's obviously not on, right? It's a serious matter. No one else has been done for kicking a cat. That's part of it as well. So he's the only one.
So what is it then? Novelty?
Yeah, a little bit.
The
to be
irony
honest,
is people
yes.
treat it as a joke, but then what are you saying is funny?
Paul Scholes bit his daughter's toenails. No one else is doing that, right? It's a little bit weird.
Yeah, I think people almost look at it as a joke, like as I don't want to use the word funny, but a funny crime to be accused of. Like toenails is probably just as bad, right?
That's
but
not
it's like,
crime,
but what's
that's
funny
just
about
weird.
it? Like people are having a laugh and a joke about calling him names from the stand, but then are you saying kicking cats is funny? Like, are you making a joke out of something that actually people got quite upset about because there's lots of cat lovers? Anyway, it's a story for another day.
Okay, cool. To be continued.
Yeah. He got his goal, and if you got his points, then well done.
That's it. That's the roundup of your games. Captaincy this week, I presume it's Haaland Saturday if he starts.
Yeah,
if he
I didn't know. Did you watch the game? Like, was he
Which one?
injured? City, Dortmund.
No, I mean, to be fair, he got taken off at half-time. Guardiola said he'd been a little bit under the weather. I said similar about Cancelo. And then there was a comment later on about his foot had been giving him some discomfort. That was it. My honest expectation is he'll play on Saturday.
Yeah, I'd be Haaland assuming he plays. And if not, the annoying thing with Salah
There's
Kane...
zero reason for him to play against Seville in the Champions League next week now.
Yeah,
the group is won.
Yeah. The frustrating thing with going to Salah or Kane is that you play each other the week after.
Yes.
And Haaland plays Fulham. So having Salah or Kane, including one captaincy for those two games, Haaland could play one and still fucking outscore them. This is the dilemma. So I may default to no transfers, Suj, and just put it on Van Dijk and just leave it be. Yeah.
Yeah, unless he's confirmed out for a while, I'm not selling. Sunday, what's your options?
Do you know what? People on the video, I just noticed I got all this fluff on me. They put fucking Halloween decorations in the office, and there's this cobweb shit everywhere.
Yeah, sure, Suj. Yeah.
Fuck. There's my grey hairs. Sunday up, probably Jesus.
Yeah, look, I think it's an Arsenal player over Forest. I've got Martinelli and Saliba, as I said. The intention at the moment for me would be Saliba. I think Arsenal are the most likely of all the Premier League teams to keep a clean sheet this weekend. I would expect pass and tear off him as well. You've seen Van Dijk and Gomez hit hundreds, the last opponents that's played against Forest. So I'd certainly expect them to hit tier 2 as well. You throw the clean sheet in, it's 10 point. If you can get an attacking return in there, it's obviously big haul. And therefore, I intend to go with Saliba over Martinelli. I mean, there's a little bit more of a guarantee. Saka, if you've got... I mean, all the attacking players are very reasonable. Like, it's absolutely fine to go with Jesus. I'm just going to go Saliba over Martinelli. I think most will go attacking players, I think. But it's worth saying as well, since Cooper's new contract, they've conceded 2 goals in 4 Nottingham Forest. One of them was a debatable penalty, and the other one was a long ranger from Ashley Young. And since everyone was making jokes about how many long range goals Dean Henderson's conceded, he hasn't conceded one.
Yeah. But being at the Emirates, you're going to favour Arsenal.
But I'm just not sure that the attacking guys will be in Sky. Worth captain over Saliba looks like a guarantee for the 5 for me. I guess it boils down to, do you fancy Forest to score in the first instance? And if you've got an attacking player, and many of you will obviously have Saliba, do you fancy that to be a haul? I'm not so convinced. I'm sure Arsenal will win. I'm not certain that they're going to be going and battering them. So it'd be Saliba for me on Sunday.
You have tempted me with Rashford,
I wouldn't captain Rashford over an Arsenal player.
No.
But I think he's an interesting one to buy. Look, you've got the shadow of Martial, and we don't quite know what his injury status is at the moment. Ronaldo is not coming in the team for Rashford. Rashford is playing through the middle at the moment, and I don't think that necessarily makes him better than playing on the left. And some of these opponents that United are coming up against, bar Fulham, may not give him the in-behind space. And Fulham might not either, actually. But actually, the one where you'd want the return is the one I think you'd fancy it most, Fulham, the last one. Because that might be your captaincy at the end. And it'd be a differential, and I think it's an interesting one. It'll be gettable for most people at 8.1. I had him at the start and sold him at the wrong time, where he did have returns. I don't mind him as a punt. Also, as well, you're going to the end, so look, he's not.
It's 2 weeks now.
He's not guaranteed sitting there. I just think if you're looking at it and you're thinking, right, if I get Marcus Rashford, I'm going to captain him Sunday the 13th. Then that effectively becomes a 4v2, and it should be considered. I think. So I think there is certainly a debate to say if you want to buy someone on Sunday, buy United rather than Arsenal. I think that's what I do. I think if I walk into a problem injury-wise on Saturday, that's what I do. I go to Rashford, and even if I get to Sunday the 13th and go, no, I'm still going to captain Adam Webster, then that's what I'll do. But I think that's where I'd gamble, is Rashford. No intention to buy unless I have an injury issue.
Saliba's really annoying.
Because?
The 4 yellow cards.
But what's annoying
for
about
a few weeks, it makes him no-buy territory.
I think it probably does, yes.
And in the meantime, he's going to rack you up a ton of points, and I'm going to not buy him because of this 4 yellow card thing hanging over.
Is
he
though?
I feel like it. Yeah.
That
Chelsea away game, I reckon it's going to be very low scoring Chelsea away for Arsenal. I think it's going to be a 1-0 or something like that.
I wouldn't be certain that there's passing tiers at Wolves in the final game. And look, Wolves might even have a new manager in place then, right? So I wouldn't be desperate to go in and get. I think if people want to go and buy him this week because of his value, particularly if you want to captain him on Sunday, if you think he's the best captain on Sunday, I would say still go and buy him, would be my take. We have this a lot, don't we, with the 4 yellows? I think Saliba would be a better buy at this stage than Jesus is in the same position, would be my take. 7.4 as well.
Yeah. Some decisions to be made. I am going to go through some Twitter questions, James, if you are happy to answer them.
Yeah, I can. Just before we do, one thing. We speak about Sunday the 13th a lot with Brighton versus Villa, Fulham versus Manchester United. Who are you intending to captain Sunday the 6th? We've spoken about this a bit, and I said to you last week I was probably leaning into Jared Bowen at home to Crystal Palace, but it's wide open, isn't it, that day?
I have Bowen or Skamaka as options at home to Palace.
Would you fancy him?
Yeah, I think we'll beat Palace at home.
Okay.
I think we will. It's 5 home wins on the bounce. I know it includes Europa League.
Would you consider Trippier at Southampton?
Yeah, it's a decent shout as well. I'll have Van Dijk away at your place.
He'll hit passing
tier. He'll 100% hit passing tier against you.
I would have thought so.
If I buy Rashford, I'll have him away at Villa. Although Villa, obviously...
First home game, new manager, yeah.
It's going to be a very open one. I think I'd pick the home game against Palace for West Ham. I think I'd gamble on Skamaka.
I think that's wide open. It's not something people have to stress about because everybody's going to have something that day. But it is wide open. I think we'll have a bigger debate about that next week and try and kind of ascertain who might be best. We've also got TV fixtures announced for the Christmas and New Year period. We have
as well.
Yeah, we can expect...
Mid-March, like, what the fuck you do in Premier League?
Well, yeah. I
think that's a podcast in itself for another day. Although... it'll just be a rant.
We can expect the rest of the January fixtures at pretty much any time as well. So this isn't overly worth thinking about. I think part of the delay, by the way, is wondering what they're going to do with some of these rearranged games like the Arsenal, Man City, Amazon game. But I don't see how they can announce it now because all of the January midweeks are basically for the domestic cups, 3rd round FA Cup replay, the 2 League Cup semi-finals. So until both of them go out the League Cup, for example, I don't know what they can really arrange. Anyway, just briefly cover this. No one should worry about it at the moment. It's just to make you aware. Monday 26th, there's a load of fixtures. Boxing Day restarts with Brentford against Tottenham. Liverpool go to Villa that day. Arsenal are at home to West Ham. So there's debatable one, first day back for captaincy. You'll probably want one Chelsea or Manchester United player. United host Forest, Chelsea host Bournemouth Tuesday the 27th. Chelsea's the earlier kickoff of the two. Manchester City have 2 single game days in this little period, a trip to Leeds on Wednesday the 28th and also a trip to Chelsea on Thursday the 5th of January. The other single game day in there is Liverpool go to Brentford on Monday the 2nd. So there's 3 single game days. Currently they feature Liverpool or Manchester City, so no stress there from that perspective. Liverpool will also be popular Friday the 30th of December. They host Leicester. The only other game is West Ham at home to Brentford.
I'm so glad they moved that.
Why?
I didn't want to be going to West Ham on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, to be honest with you. So.
Oh, well, I'm going to Tottenham New Year's Day. Sorry about that.
I just didn't want to go. So I'm glad it's the 30th. If it was New Year's Eve, there's every chance I would have just sacked it off. But.
Talking of Tottenham, Sunday the 1st of January, early kick-off against Aston Villa. Chelsea go to Forest that day as well. Because of the Chelsea game against Bournemouth does make you think, oh, can I skip Tottenham? But it's worth noting, Wednesday the 4th of January, Tottenham go to Crystal Palace. They're the only one, I think the next highest placed team in the league after Tottenham that play that night currently, I think yourselves, Serge, West Ham, you're 10th.
Right.
So Tottenham, the only one of the top 9 playing on that night as it stands currently. So the likes of Kane is going to be popular that night, for example. Night before, Tuesday the 3rd, you've got United at home to Bournemouth, Arsenal at home to Newcastle. And on Saturday the 31st, you've got a load of games. There are 6, which features Manchester City at home to Everton. You will definitely want City coverage. You'll definitely want Liverpool coverage. This was probably going to be common anyway. You'll almost definitely want some Tottenham coverage. I think Kane will be very popular in overhaul teams. Subject to obviously what England do at the World Cup. I imagine he'll probably be back home quite early in December, personally. And you will want one at least, I think, from either Chelsea or Manchester United. The rest we can debate more near when we get there.
Yeah, I
it's
think
not
so.
worth worrying about.
Where we're at with injuries.
We think just to add on the week after, if you're thinking, because there's only 2 more rounds in January, we think Tottenham and Arsenal at White Hart Lane will be the 12:30 kick-off on the Saturday, and we think the Manchester Derby will be the 4:30 on the Sunday. That's the 14th and 15th of January, respectively.
Cool.
So even that, all right, the high-profile games, but that'll cover you. It's unlikely to be a Monday night or a Friday night game on that weekend, again, because of what I said, because of the domestic cup competitions. If they're going to announce it soon, I don't know how they can unless there's a provision. They have done that in the past, where they've had, I want to say Everton Leicester was one. They announced it for a Monday night, and I think Leicester played an FA Cup third round replay, so they moved it back to the Sunday lunchtime. So they could do that sort of thing, but then there's no guarantee that it would even happen.
Cool. Well, when we get into the World Cup, and obviously closer towards the end of the World Cup, we'll be spending plenty of time looking at overhauls. I feel like what generally happens post-overhaul is that we all come out with a template. So that's why it's not really that exciting, because we'll just have a chat and probably end up with 8 or 9 players that are the same.
I've got 31 transfers now.
Yeah.
Subject to injuries, if I didn't have any, and I'm sure I will, but if I didn't, it's conceivable I might be sitting here with you in 3.5 months and still have 31 transfers.
Your plan in overhaul is to...
you don't want to plan a transfer in the first sort of 2 weekends of...
Yeah, I mean, in your situation...
Injuries changed that. No, I just think irrespectively anyway. When you look at the way those fixtures land for the, let's call them 3 match weeks, you don't need to be chopping and changing it. And the way they've designed it with the spacing, there's no games there, mate. There's no, City are playing 3 games and Liverpool playing 1 shit game.
Yeah,
it's
that was
there.
what I was going to look at until you've answered it for me. So there's no ability for me to pile in the first 2 and then transfer 3 players out because they've got really nice first 2 or something.
No, so I mean, even if you take a perfect example, so Liverpool play the first Monday, then they play the Friday, and then they play the Monday, right? So where are you coming off them, for example? City, you've got Wednesday the 28th. What you're going to do, come off and skip. There isn't a 3-for-1 anyway. We're going to skip Everton at home. Now, after Everton at home, once we got the next set, where, like I said, we think the Manchester Derby might be Sunday the 15th, then there might be something. You might, once you've got that extra set of fixtures, you might be able to look and go, right, on New Year's Day, I'll go from Haaland to Kane, just as an example. You captain Kane against Villa. You've got Kane against Villa. You then miss Haaland away to Chelsea, but you're still going to want captaincy coverage that night. Then you've got Kane against Arsenal when you go back. So that sort of thing might open up once we see the next set. It's just not there at the moment.
Right, understood. Should we get into these Twitter questions? Just have a look at some. I see we've chosen Bruno Fernandes for the image.
I think if
Twitter
people
today.
can afford him, I think I'd put him in the same kind of punt area as Rashford. His creativity's been really good over the last couple of games, and that's against Tottenham and Chelsea. So he's showing a bit of form at the moment, underlying numbers and stuff. So if people want to punt him rather than say Rashford and you can afford it, it's 3 games. I don't mind.
Ronaldo training with the team again as of yesterday.
Ronaldo's not starting in the Premier League.
But you know what happens when Ronaldo does play, Bruno.
But Ronaldo's not going to start, so I don't think it's an issue.
Yeah, despite Nico's heart being broken about that one.
I don't see how that changes. I'm sure he'll play in Moldova or wherever they are on Thursday, but I don't see him starting in Premier League games.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm with you though. I don't see how. Ten Hag don't fancy him. January, bring it on. They'll get rid of him. Chris Hermitage says, if you've got a decent captain on each day pre-World Cup, are there any moves actually worth it given the few games left bar injuries?
No, so I mean, let's take a different example. Here's one. So we've mentioned the injuries, right? Suspensions. So there'll be a number of you listening who got Tony. You got Tony? No. A number of people got Tony, right? If he gets booked against Wolves on Saturday, I think that's sell. Mm-hmm. Because he's going to be suspended for Nottingham Forest away, and then you've got Man City away is the only game left. So you've got 3 for 1. It might be a 4 for 1 with a captaincy as well. That's a sell. So I think there are situations that can happen Saturday where you go, right, I'm moving it. If Saliba gets booked against Forest and he's going to miss Chelsea away, I don't think with the money that's likely to be in the bank and exactly what Chris has said, there's captaincy is going to be covered. Where are you going? I wouldn't bother. What would have I expected at Chelsea anyway? 2 points. So is that suddenly because he's just physically not there? Is that going to be worth a transfer? And this year's different because of the 50 transfers, because of the one overhaul. Until we've really kind of got through the season and looked back, I don't think we can make definitive 100%. This is what I wanted from my transfers because everything's a little new to us in terms of this number of transfers and just the one overhaul. There's longer to go left in this season. Normally we'd have it in like February, the second one, right? So there's longer to go. There's longer fixtures left. Normally we'd be doing it around sort of match week 24 or something. We're doing this sort of match week 16. So you've got over half of a football season left to go. But if you wanted to move Saliba because he got booked against Forest and is going to miss Chelsea, he's still got Wolves away. I mean, the only thing I could think is if you didn't have Haaland and had money in the bank, yeah, buy Haaland against Fulham. Like great, crack on. Otherwise, would I force it to get an extra City player? No, I wouldn't bother. But yeah, if you lose like a Tony on Saturday, that's a sell. That's a sell, and I think personally to a Manchester United player.
Colombo 77777. Just one more thing. I still have David Raya. Who would you swap him for, especially with the away game against Man City on the horizon? I still have David Raya.
Absolutely no one.
No one.
Got Wolves and Forest in the next 2.
David Raya
arguably
is
the 2 worst attacks in the league.
I don't know how many save tiers he's picked up this season, but it's loads. I just know that even when they've conceded and not kept clean sheets, he pops up with 4 points every now and then.
6 or 7 at Villa, wasn't it? They conceded 4, so no, I would not sell David Raya.
Like David Raya, the only reason I wouldn't, if I was thinking about post Overhaul, for example, I'll probably end up with Kepa just because of price and Chelsea being a better team. But I think if I wasn't, David Raya would still be there because his save percentage is really good.
For argument's sakes, let's say he gets injured on Saturday, which keeper would you go to? Would you go to Ramsdale, De Gea, Henderson, or Fabianski? Henderson's last 2 after Arsenal, Brentford at home and Palace at home. So I think he's worth the conversation, and also he might be the only one you can afford.
Probably go to Henderson, to be honest with you.
So if you were stuck, if Raya got injured on Saturday, well, let's put it a different way. If Raya got injured on Saturday, would you buy Henderson for the 3 games? No captain.
Tommy Smith.
I probably would.
Was thinking of taking Bowen out for either Foden or Ruben Diaz. Do I just leave it? Sam also says, Bowen straight back out. I mean, I'm assuming that means because he bought him on Monday. I don't think so.
No, I could end up captaining him that Sunday the 6th, possibly. I wasn't overly impressed with you Monday, I must say, Suj. It put me off Schumacher a little bit as well. But no, I wouldn't sell, no.
Yeah, I mean, Bournemouth made the game difficult, but I don't think we were bad. I don't think we were great.
I didn't say we're bad. I'm just saying from an attacking perspective, those guys didn't thrill me in terms of expectations of returns. That's all.
This is a common problem with West Ham coming up against teams that will set up. I don't want to sound critical of Bournemouth, but set up defensively.
Disrespectful.
Yeah. But if teams are going to set up defensively against us, we're shit at breaking them down. You don't get the chances that you do maybe when you can counter-attack. So that's life. I think United, there'll be more tier point opportunities because I think Bowen will get more shots off and Schumacher will get more shots off. So, yeah, I wouldn't be selling either of them, to be honest, between now and the end of the season. You must have other problems that you need to solve or just save the transfers. Gordon Bell.
It's not enough. There probably are players that you could move to. Firstly, it's worth saying with no gain. If you're sitting there and you don't have Foden, you might be thinking, I want to go. That would be the sort of one you think, if I go Bowen or Foden, and I'm not going to captain Bowen, but then still, it's not just about, will Foden outscore Bowen? Yeah, it probably will. But will he outscore him by enough to make that feel worthwhile? I think the answer is no.
We've got these two questions about Bowen, which is why we're talking about him. 1 minute. Had he been subbed 2 minutes later or 1 minute later and he'd been on the pitch for the penalty and scored the penalty, I don't think these questions would be in the questions.
He said he wouldn't have taken the penalty.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
I didn't see that post.
By the way, I'm not 100% sure about that, but that is what he said. I saw him say it. I'm like you. I'm not convinced that. I was suspicious, and I've not seen anyone else say they're suspicious about it. But I found it quite jovial. He was like, I was off the pens anyway. That's kind of how he said it. I wasn't sure that was truthful.
What, because he missed one? I don't think so. The others he's taken quite convincingly. So, should there be Martinelli or Saliba captain Sunday?
I'm going Saliba.
I would be with you as well. I'd go Saliba. Home fixture, I think he'd be good for a passing tier. Other than injuries, are we best just holding our transfers now? Is there any team or player that we should look at? That says Gordon Bell. No.
Yeah, look, I think it's worth having kind of a preset idea about particularly Arsenal and Manchester United assets for Sunday in case you walk into a problem Saturday. But I think, you're at the stage where it's probably a no. I think like those ones sort of Bowen to Foden, great in the immediate thing. I don't want Bowen at United. Foden's got 3 good fixtures. Bowen's got 2 good fixtures afterwards as well. Do I think Foden outscores Bowen? Yes. Do I think he outscores him by enough to make the transfer worthwhile? No. And I think the ones that will tempt people is if they're short of Man City players. But I can't think that there's, I wouldn't go Van Dijk to Cancelo. I wouldn't dream that right now, for example. Would you go Salah to Haaland if you didn't have? I think that's maybe one.
Yeah.
But
who doesn't have Haaland?
Someone.
Who are you?
Someone won't for whatever reason. Perhaps they pretend they were taking him out and are going to go back, for example. Maybe they've got loads of transfers like you and just thought they'd fuck around with it.
Those transfers are.
But generally speaking, I think no. Sunday the 30th. If you don't have any coverage for Sunday the 13th, then again, I think Manchester United Sunday the 30th should be of interest. If you don't have Brighton, you don't have United, you don't have Fulham, you don't have Villa. But even if you're just sitting there with Paulinho, I think it's all right.
Darren wants to know thoughts on United players. You mentioned obviously Fernandes and Rashford. He's actually looking at Joachim Andersen to Martinez or Lindelof.
No, I think Martinez is one that might prove very popular for the Christmas period, actually, because they've got Forest at home, Wolves away, and Bournemouth at home as their 3 fixtures, and they could all be clean sheets, and there could be passing numbers to come with it. At the moment, those passing tiers are not there. I think if you have a quick look, Serge, I want to say that Martinez hasn't hit a passing tier yet. And if you can compare that at value to like Saliba, for example, it's just not worth it at the moment. Plus, they've lost Varane, presumably for these upcoming 3 games. I don't hate him in the sense that I think if you've got 3 at the back and you've suddenly got an injury issue, for example, then, I think he's worth considering. So, take me. Is he 8.3, is he, Suj, Martinez? He's 8.3. Yeah. Okay. So let me give you an example. So I've got Webster, 7.4, and I've got 0.9 in the bank. If Webster gets injured Saturday, I probably buy him. in that sort of circumstance, because I've only got 3 at the back, right? So I'd have to buy a defensive player anyway. Do I want to get Gabriel to go with Saliba? I don't think I could even afford that anyway. So Martinez would actually fall right into the line where I go, actually, yeah, I'm going to go and get you. But I think for most people, no. Any passing tiers? I don't think it's got any. 1.
Everton away, tier 2.
Doesn't even count, does it?
Ian Parrin, when considering Sky transfers on Sunday, specifically this week, what's your points threshold for your incoming player? So let's say Zaha to Martinelli. So Zaha will then have 2 games left after this.
Yep.
Maybe an assist and appearance points, call it 9 points, 10 points. How many does Martinelli need to score in his 3 games for you to think it's worth it?
Well, firstly, I don't think Zaha will blank in all 3 games. So you have to consider that as well. So Zaha's got, West Ham away, Forest at home. I'd say there's probably an attacking return in there. Let's put him at 9 points. So I would probably want from Martinelli somewhere between sort of 21 and 25 points to make me feel that's worthwhile. Now, if you've got no Arsenal coverage, for example, and you think, well, I'm going to get Martinelli, I'm going to captain him, the 1 goal will get you nearly there. So I think it's circumstantial. If you don't intend to captain him, it's a no for me. If you do, then I'm okay with it. But he'd have to score against Forest to make that worthwhile. Have to score.
FPL hindsight, is it worth bidding Gibbs White now, or just kind of stomach it? Happy to bin him if there's no fixture gain, 7.5 or under.
No,
Saliba's one there.
What's that?
Saliba, under 7.5.
Maybe if you don't have, yeah, of course it can be considered. But I think arguably keep. Just a note on him. Obviously, Brennan Johnson didn't start against Liverpool. Gibbs White's started every game since he's joined Forest. If Johnson's not in the team, remember he did miss the penalty at Forest. I wouldn't be surprised if Gibbs White's on the penalties, you know.
Okay.
And the last 2 fixtures, Brentford at home and Palace at home, are reasonable. So expectations, little, but I'd keep.
Kevin, how does Suj plan to spend the 50k?
How do you plan to spend the 50k?
I'm gonna buy a place in Portugal.
Okay.
I'll put a deposit down anyway. I was thinking about it, right? When you get that kind of money, you can buy little things like pay off a bit of debt or get a kitchen or whatever. But I'd want to use it on just one big thing rather than lots of small things. And I've decided that the Algarve, me and Nico are going to go down there together, chill in Portugal, eat pastel de nata every day, drinking little coffees because they like to have the little ones. Yeah, if I won 50 grand, honestly, I'd just get a place in Portugal and that'd be it. That's what I want to do one day anyway, go and retire down the Algarve, play golf.
If the listeners didn't know already, you can tell that Suj pays my wages.
Yeah, but I can't get a place in Portugal. I think Terry Venable's got a place down there, a vineyard down there in the Algarve.
I'm sure Eltel's got lots of places.
I hang out with Eltel, share tax avoidance schemes and all that, you know.
Yeah.
Nice. Coming at you soon. He's got a vineyard down there. We'll go and drink Eltel's wine.
Call Suj the tax avoider.
AD Tour. Best replacement for Christensen.
Yeah, that's interesting. Luke Ayling played on Sunday. My best guess, by the way, would be that Christensen might come back in. And therefore, you might not want it. That said, they're shipping goals at the moment, aren't they?
Might be managerless, you never know.
That's the sort of one as well where you're looking at it and you're thinking, do I want to make that move now rather than wait for the game because it's Liverpool away at the weekend? I'd probably leave it, though, to be honest. I mean, who's got, across these remaining games, who's got 3 great fixtures? And I'd argue City, obviously. But other than that, I'd argue Everton's probably best. So what are you going to do? You're going to go and buy a Tarkowski or something because there's clean sheet potential? You're not. Again, to make that transfer, if Christensen starts at home to Bournemouth, I think for Christensen to Tarkowski, I don't even know Tarkowski's price to be worth it, I think you'd need 3 clean sheets from Everton or you'd need 2 clean sheets and an attack in return because he won't hit passing tiers. So I'd probably just suffer it, to be honest. Unless magically you can get up to a Cancelo. God knows who plays, like Aki and Akanji we keep talking about. God knows who plays.
I feel like the next 2 weeks of Sky are going to be so boring.
They probably are, in all honesty. Yeah.
So literally people asking, shall I buy this player? No. Shall I buy this player? No. Shall I use a transfer? No.
There are cases.
There will be the odd one.
We might sit here this time next week and we might go, yeah, do you know what? He's the best captaincy on Sunday the 6th. Let's go and get him. But I don't see that at the moment.
Yeah, there we go. That's a wrap of all the questions that we had. Thank you for tuning in. You can head over to @Planet FPL Pod on Twitter if you don't already follow James. Who are you?
But cannot phone me.
Don't phone. Follow is what I meant to say. And obviously each and every week, that's where the tweet gets put out. If you want to have your question answered, if you're a keen player and debating what to do with getting better at Sky Fantasy, I can't promise you'll get better, but there will be a lot of people in our Slack channel that are always interested in having a good conversation about Sky. So you can head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL and you'll be introduced into our Slack channel should you sign up and given access to James's Excel planner where you can plot in your transfers, look at what fixtures are coming up.
Plotting the transfers you shouldn't make.
Have you updated with the January bits yet? Or
of course, yeah.
How rapid this man is.
Really? Was it yesterday's news or the day before? I don't know.
No idea. So yeah, there we go. You might want to consider supporting the show. Patreon.com/Planet FPL. We're going to have a lot of fun extras during the World Cup. They're going to make it really worthwhile for people. That'll be announced very soon. So just head over and do it. What's the date? 26th. Are we going to give them the rest of October free now? Are we?
If you want to.
It's 3 days, 4 days, Halloween. Halloween special. If you sign up between now and the 31st of October, you get the end of October free. Ooh. But other than that, stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck this week. Play it your way. Cue music, please, man child.